Hey, I hope everyone can hear me well. Yeah, my name is Viet, and today's talk is about build whatever. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. So yeah, before we dive into build whatever with Celestia underneath, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Viet. I'm a software engineer at Celestia Labs since 2021. And initially, I actually got this site into Web3 because of TestGround. If you know, you know what is TestGround. If you're not, yeah, take your time. It's actually a very interesting topic to look around. And yeah, one of my core beliefs is that Celestial Light Node is the Edison's lamp for masses, meaning that now we don't get why we actually need a light node, or like not for everyone, but yeah, looking back after 5 or 10 years, we'll understand how actually cool it is. And of course, last but not least, in this space, you want to trust, but first you need to verify that. So yeah, enough of introduction on me. Let's move on. Before we deep dive into the main topic of this talk, let's start discussing a little bit of history of blockchain errors. And if you remember the like, since Bitcoin basically came out and so on, we are basically in war in the monolithic era where execution and consensus were coupled. Everyone thought of it kind of like as a standalone establishment. No, like people were just forking back and forth, which I would say was not great from a UX standpoint. And then we shift a little bit closer to the modular software era, where actually execution and consensus were at least decoupled at software level. And a good example of it is Cosmos, where you were basically defining just how your application chain was running, but everything else you get from the get-go. And yeah, this year, I would say going forward, we finally reached, let's say, the end game in the sense that at least the beginning of the modular blockchain era. And this is where, Celestia sparked this new movement of the modular blockchain vision. And let's actually look deeper into this modular blockchain era thing and like what is actually a modular blockchain. So in the monolithic world, as you saw, execution, consensus, and data availability are coupled together. They're heavily tied, and you basically have everything in one box. While in the modular blockchain, we have this. I would say right now we see clearly the separation of two big, let's say, topics. One is execution, and the second one is consensus and data availability. So yeah, in the modular blockchain, you want to make sure that you don't put them both together because basically it doesn't make sense. You just want to then stay in the monolithic world. And to just give you more, let's say, terminology here, a blockchain that fully outsources at least one component to an external chain, consensus, data availability, or execution. If you're not doing all of them, then you're a modular blockchain, meaning that in sense of Celestia, we are only doing, the blockchain is only doing consensus and data availability. That's why we don't do execution. We don't have any smart contracts or whatsoever in this blockchain. We are modular. And the same can basically goes to, let's say, Arbitrum, OP Stack, Optimism, and ZK-Sync, Fuel, etc. All of them are also modular blockchains because they are heavily focused on execution part of it. Yeah. So let's go deeper into Celestia and what it actually means like what is actually a Celestia blockchain. And in essence, Celestia is just a modular data availability network, meaning that your blockchains or whatever blockchains on top of Celestia, they're just using this blockchain for data availability and consensus. And the beauty of this, the beauty of Celestia's data availability network is that it securely scales with the amount of users. And what I mean by this is that users of of Celestia blockchain are actually running light nodes, and they are doing verification using those light nodes to check if the data was actually published or made available. So then the application on top of them, i.e. execution, can happen safely, and securely. And of course, this gives a good property in the sense that if you're running light node, then you need to make sure how you can deploy your blockchain on top. Then, one of the goals of this blockchain is to make sure that you can deploy basically your own blockchain as easy as a smart contract and as fast as possible. So this is basically what Celestia is in high-ish level understanding. And now let's deep a little bit deeper into this, like light node. I've been mentioning this thing. For you to understand why it is important to have light nodes, let's imagine we have a 1 megabyte block, and it requires, I don't know, a small computer at home that you can run. You can verify the chain, everything is good. But then let's imagine we have all agreed that as a community that, hey, let's make our blockchain, I don't know, 50 megabytes. And now suddenly, as you see the Pepe in the second part of the screen, is getting nervous because the requirements for hardware is getting higher. And we are basically pricing out a lot of people out of the equation of verification, which is not great. And in case of Celestia, this is a little bit different because using light node, you're basically sampling chunks of the block. And it means that you're not downloading actually everything. Because of the availability sampling techniques, that is randomly picking and sampling blocks, we can actually be constant in the amount of how many users they are to get the data, I would say, fully sampled by light nodes. And now imagine the second part of the Pepe. If we have more Pepes that will just run light nodes, they can probabilistically cover the whole block, meaning that if we scale the block size and the amount of users are getting more and more included there with running light nodes, we can basically safely cover the full availability of the latest block and just scale megabytes basically per block safer as we progress without basically asking everyone to upgrade their hardware. So now we have answered the question how Celestia scales with the availability sampling and light nodes. Let's just talk about why basically Celestia is here and helping basically dev to use it. First, as you can see, it's really fast. You just run the light node, you plug in your execution environment, and you just take it from there. A good example already, as you can see lately, or if you didn't know, there are teams like Conduit, Caldera, Gelato, Outlayer, etc. They're all already managing all this. So you just come as to a candy shop and saying, hey, I just want my own OP stack with my community. Can we run it? Definitely yes. Then the beauty of it, because now everyone is basically focused on execution environment, well, Celestia is not telling anyone what is running what, because it's basically just ordering and making blocks available. You can use whatever VM you want. And this second beauty thing, because as you saw, a lot of experimentation has been happening, that not only EVM rollups are popping off. Right now we have Solana, SVM tech coming in with Eclipse, and Movement Labs have been trying to make sure basically Move VM is getting popularized. And Cosmos Chains right now, instead of just being an L1, they can just become basically a roll-up on top of Celestia, which is awesome. And then as you see, with this new design or the new paradigm of modular blockchains, basically the sky's the limit in case of what type of blockchain you want. And of course, because we already touched how you can scale the amount of blocks, block size and block space, imagine that, everyone will access this abundant throughput in a sense that no one needs to overpay, no one needs to fight for the limited, scarce amount of block space. If the community already proved that everyone is basically sampling a block and it's getting close to full, we can just agree that, hey, let's scale that up, let's figure out so we can provide abundant block space, more place to come. And This is why it's basically Celestia. And now we finally come to our topic of build whatever. And as you saw, I've been trying to explain to you how you can deploy fast and use any execution environment you want. This picture basically shows, I would say, the current status quo, that independent teams are picking, Celestia DA to run their own blockchains, aka rollups. And so I think you can do the same in the sense that you want an Arbitrum rollup, for sure, just go ahead and do it. Okay, or you would say, hey, I just want to be an L3, which is a popular thing right now. Sure, just go take Optimism and become an L3 or Arbitrum, whatever you want. It actually, like, with build whatever, we are going a little bit backwards to the proper, I would say, kind of like proper mindset, where devs actually can start thinking from a application point of view and one with what stack they want to end up, instead of just saying, hey, the only option is A and I cannot do anything else. I'm bounded to the already established tool chain and community. I cannot have my saying anymore. So yeah, I'll just be constrained by these limitations. In this case, no, if you run your own blockchain, which is easy to deploy, and basically you have it in the get-go, you'll be safe and sound. And of course, it will be wonderful to see that people finally stop launching L1s, in the sense that it's actually very hard and the amount of social coordination is immense. And if you're just a dev who wants to code and ship, well, now you're delayed a lot. But with build whatever and having your own roll up, you don't need that hassle anymore. It's literally a question of time to delivery and how fast you can get to the point that you want to end up with. Yep. So the handbook to build whatever. Let's imagine right now, all of us listeners, we have gathered consensus and say, hey, let's actually run a EVM OP stack chain. And we will focus on what really matters. We'll all imagine that we just want to print out a bunch of POPs tokens plus NFT tickets to this wonderful event, the blockchain days. And yeah, we want to prove lately in time that, hey, someone actually was participating in this, either as just a watcher or a volunteer. And because the DA cost is so low, we'll just pay as we go. It will just be, as part of operation costs, which costs basically close to nothing. And we'll have a lot of fun with our blockchain, because now we're not only just united under the same umbrella of an event, we'll actually know that we can control our own future, in the sense, hey, what other event we want to run, plus what, tokens in the sense of POP, tokens we want to issue to our community, so then we can prove that, it's not just a event for one-timers, but as long people go, the more perks they have. For example, a perk that, I don't know, they can have a fork of Pungies because an artist in this event was willing to participate in this community. And at the end of the day, this blockchain has become so popular. Yeah, we understood that we need an Oracle or something of the sort. So we can do our own custom precompile, and we don't need to wait for anyone. It's literally inside of our community. We'll decide what matters the most. And and take this notion and try to multiply by 10,000, 100,000 times. So a lot of people around the world will basically do kind of like the same stuff as we are right now talking. And you will have 10,000, 100,000 blockchains where people just stay sovereign inside their community. They're just, discussing what they actually want, and they don't need to wait for someone to tell them where they're constrained and where they're not. And this is where we get to the notion of, let's say, the North Star, that if this happens more frequently, we technically will end up with a situation where indeed it makes sense to have 1 gigabyte blocks, 1 million rollups. And we hope that when everyone is owning their part of their rollup, blockchain, whatever, they will finally reach 1 billion users. Because if each rollup is serving a very specific need for the community of its own, then adoption will finally come, which is fantastic. And if you want to learn more about how you can build your custom blockchain or rollup, how you can actually start learning, Josh and I follow us on X. We'll just make sure that we'll add you to our modular academy. We want to make sure that for the next 1 billion users, we'll have the next 1 million devs that will be there for them and help them build up what they deem to be necessary. Yeah, and I guess this is all. Thank you so much.